time. I don't know what impression 1984 would have been created had it been captured on TV news.
I agree with you. But there was almost no reportage of 1984 in the print media. You had to actually get people to allow you to do a story on what happened to the Sikhs. I remember a year later going to Tilak Nagar, where the widows were, and they were openly cursing Rajiv Gandhi and wishing him, doom and death and things like that, because they hadn't been helped at all. And nobody was prepared to listen to their stories. Now, I admit that there wasn't television, but there was journalism. There were journalists who did not report that story.
What is the image that stays with you from 1984?
I remember for a start that, I was writing for the Sunday Times London. And they, of course, thought that Punjab was going to erupt. And so they sent me off to Amritsar. She was killed on the 31st of October. On the 1st, they sent me off. And I had to leave Atish, who was, I think, 3 or 4 years old. And, I spoke to my mother and I said, can you come and stay with him? Because he's alone. I was in a little Barsati and golf links at that point. And she said, nothing's going to happen. You don't understand India, it never happens like that, etc. I then come back from Amritsar that evening, and the image has stayed with me because my grandmother faced the same thing in Lahore when they had to flee. And I smelt burning, it wasn't like burning flesh, but burning as I came out of the airport. And there was this smoke coming in from the rest of Delhi, and I couldn't find a taxi. I couldn't go in. And at that point, I used to wear a khanda, a gold khanda. And, I was that's identifiably a Sikh. And so I somehow managed to persuade South Indian gentleman to give me a lift to Rafi Marg, where the office of the telegraph was, or, wherever. And on the way outside the Ashoka Hotel, we saw the first burnt bodies in the street. Then we saw taxis with, dead men, on the thing. And I couldn't believe that this was in the center of Delhi and there were bodies in the streets.
Yeah.
That I've never been able to forget. I sometimes have nightmares of that. And then we went the next day after that. On the 3rd, Rajat Sharma and I went to Tirlokpuri, and we saw what we thought was just garbage burning, and they were bodies. And he remembers a foot, and I remember an arm, of somebody with a ring on it, or the other way around, I can't remember. But,
I think you wrote it was an arm with a ring on it.
Yeah.
A hand stretched out with a ring on it.
And he remembers the foot. And, we were in shock, I have to tell you. Those are the images that stay with me.
So let's start with Rajiv Gandhi, on whose watch this happens.